some spirited debate in the comment section as to whether these two idiots with the baseball bat were scripted to be part of this, or whether, as I asserted, they inserted themselves and then affected the script. Now, I still maintain what I asserted to be how it went down, but look, obviously, the only people that really know are the people that wrote the script and the people that staged this event. So for us, we can only go by what we see and then base it on that, base our opinions on that. So based on what I see, I think that they were not part of the script. But like I said, that's not 100% confirmed. So of course, other people got other opinions, then they're valid as well. So I'm just going to leave that discussion in the comments section at that. And I'm just going to start focusing on the individuals. Now, I'm going to start with the blonde hottie. Now, this is the first frame where you can actually see blonde hottie. Now, I have to point her out, and she just looks like a figure, but by her movements, you can see that it's her when she becomes more clearer. Now, she comes from an area down right in front of us, down that street there. That was the staging area for quite a number of people involved in this event. That's where the 3 cars came from. That is where Blondie comes from, and the person in blue who winds up the scene and comes right into the middle of the intersection, that person comes from down there as well. And interestingly, there's a guy that the muscle-bound guy, he makes a timely appearance from down that area as well. And that area, that was where a couple of weeks before, I did a video on it, they cleared that area of all the homeless. There were some permanent people down there, and you couldn't have people that were there all the time. You know, people walking past, they're not going to sort of notice too much, but someone's stationary at a spot is going to notice some unusual happenings. So they would have been preparing the staging area for even maybe a week or two before and getting it ready for this event. So that down there is definitely the staging area. That's where she comes from. So I'll just put the green arrow to show where she is. So just look where the green arrow is. Now I'll just show the footage now, and you'll see her come out, and she's in quite a hurry. They're running there. I'll just zoom in, and I'll just zoom in and slow down, and you can see there she is. You can see the lighter coloured pants with the top. You can't see they're purple at that stage, but you can see the attire matches. But when you track her movements, you'll see that it ends up being her. So in the time it takes Jimmy to do this donut, we can stop it there. We can see Blondie's made significant progress. And there's also a couple of other characters from down in the staging area that you can just make out. So I'll just zoom in. Now, we can see Blondie there. She's looking very purposeful. And you've also got the guy without the shirt on with the muscles. And you can just make out that blue patch there. That's actually the first appearance of the person in blue, and he gets up to, or she gets up to quite some antics as before they actually get up to the intersection. As you can see right at this point, suddenly there has been a burst of activity from down at the staging area from people that, if you were writing the script, you wouldn't need to be involved. If you were writing this script for the effect they wanted, which was for Jimmy to be a bit of a madman, and then the cops to chase him away, and then he escaped down Swanston and then turned up Bourke Street. That's the official narrative. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's what they said had happened. So that's what should have happened at this intersection without all these people being involved. I would say the script would have been for Jimmy to do donuts until 3 police cars arrived and put their sirens on to try and stop him, and then Jimmy then raced up Swanston Street. But as I said before, something has happened that before they got the chance to play that out, and I believe that it's the guys with the baseball bats. Now, this hive of activity starts on the donut before the baseball bat guys emerge, but they would have had observers at each of the intersections, and they would have been feeding intel on what was going on at each intersection. Now, these bunch of young idiots with their baseball bat are a bunch of hoods, as far as what I can see. They are, don't mind making a spectacle, getting into a bit of trouble, getting into a bit of strife. They would have not just raced out there, they would have been talking about it and daring each other. And I think that intel got back to head office. Head office has said, okay, we need to deploy people to try and shut this down. And that's why they're all running to get there. Bear in mind, this is the donut before they actually run out. So let's just watch a bit more. And another big indicator that all of these people that are mobilising right now weren't meant to mobilise according to the script and become front and centre is that the media did interview some supposed bystanders about Jimmy doing donuts. Now, they would have been there as part of the script to do the interviews, but you didn't really see them. Now, wouldn't the logical thing to be to interview the people that were front and centre? Say, especially Blondie, they like to get the good looking ones on. They could have her on and she could explain all of, well, why did you run up there? Who were you? Were you talking to the guy in red? Was that a domestic? But why weren't you looking at Jimmy at that point in time? Yet they weren't interviewed. They were totally ignored by the media. And the reason was, especially the person in blue, what were you doing on the intersection? Were you helping police? Were you volunteering your services? Are you some kind of, cop that's just off duty and you're helping out? Can you give us an idea of what you're meant to be doing? Yet none of them ever were seen again. And that indicates that they were never meant to have shown themselves. A little bit of footage there shows blonde hottie just speeding along a bit, but she also turns and does a gesture to somebody. Now, she does gestures and interacts with people quite a few times. And again, that's an indication that this was not part of the script, because why would they need to do on the run gestures and outwardly expose themselves, and at the risk of exposing themselves, well, I think they did, showing themselves to be doing things. If the script's written, everyone already knows what they're meant to do. And it was quite simple. Jimmy does the donuts, I mentioned before. The cops cars come up, turn their sirens on and chase him away. So there was something has obviously happened that they were adjusting to, and that I think, again, like I'll just say it one more time, the guys with the baseball bats put their timing out. So all her gestures are all signalling to people changes in what is happening, and also that explains the guy in blue and a few other instances. So we'll just watch her here. She looks back and she gestures. I'll just zoom in as well. So yeah, that's clearly she is giving a signal to somebody there. It's a video that I put together where I synchronize the 4 different angles and intersections. So you can see at the top left-hand corner there, the tram just left, and in a second you'll see the Channel 7 van, it'll go past. So at this point in time, everything was pretty well. There goes the Channel 7 van. Everything was pretty well on schedule. Just pause it there, and here's where things started to go wrong. Beginning with, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the guy in red just about to leave his post over where the crowded intersection was. And that intersection was the most volatile, and from where the guys with the baseball bat came from. So he shouldn't have left his position, as we find out later on when he gets berated. And he heads to that centre aisle where there's no need for him to be. So I just think he's a bit of a doofus and he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't follow instructions very well. You get those in all workplaces. This is where we're just about to start to watch the vision from before, where all the activity starts. And I think it's a combination of probably some intel from observers in amongst those crowds listening to the building up of the baseball attack. And this doofus leaving his post has exacerbated it, because very soon after he leaves his post is when all of the activity starts down at the staging area that I've already shown. And you can see Doofus just ambling across to a position that he shouldn't be at. And you can see how many people are at that far intersection in that bottom right-hand corner. So we'll just freeze it there. On this next lap that Jimmy does, that's when the baseball bat guys come out and hit the car. So we'll just go back to watching Blondie's reaction as that occurs. Just pick up the action here, so I'll just point out where Blondie is. So this is from a different camera angle, we can see what she does. So there she is right there. So as Jimmy continues on this faithful donut that he's doing now, she comes around there, and I'll just pause it right there. What she's about to do there is put her hands to her mouth and shout out across the intersection, just as the guys with the baseball bats race out. Now, what could she possibly be shouting out across the intersection? What, go boys, keep going boys? Or more than likely, trying to stop them from interfering in their script, which is what the guy in red should have been doing if he'd stayed at his post. But he wasn't there. So she's now shouting out across the intersection, and there's no logical reason if she was just some kind of bystander that she would shout across the intersection. And we know that she's not, because she's already signalled once and she has multiple communications with and interactions with people that are also involved in this event. So we know she's not a bystander and she's shouting out across. Again, I'll just reiterate that if these guys were part of the script, she wouldn't be doing this. So there she was. Now she wanted to be heard because she put her hands up to her mouth and she certainly shouted out something in the direction of these two guys. Now, the next guy to look at who gets involved with her is just to the right. I'll just point him out with a green arrow. Another major indication that those guys were not meant to be part of the script is that if they're trying to simulate reality. Now, in reality, what would happen is if you had a car doing donuts illegally, guys with baseball bats running up and smashing it, you would have police from everywhere. And we know that the police were following this car by helicopter. We know there were lots of police at this scene. And they should have then at least tried to challenge the guy doing donuts, as they would. And they would certainly swarm on the two guys with the baseball bats. But as you can see, that doesn't happen. Like, you try and do this in any major city anywhere around the world. Do donuts and have guys run out with baseball bats. Just stage your own event. And you see how long you get to do that for before cops have got everyone pinned on the ground everywhere. It just would not happen. So that's another major indication that those guys, they could, what that's what should have happened, and it starts to show it up as being a hoax, which is why they then had to end it early, because inaction by the police, and the longer that went on, was more of an indication that it was a hoax, and they didn't want that to be known, obviously, because they're trying to fool everybody. And look, here's where I guess Team B has swung into action. These guys were there as a contingency, and as I said before, they were not meant to be conspicuous, otherwise they would have been interviewed by the media as witnesses, and none of them were. Now, the first thing they need to do was to challenge those two guys with the baseball bat. So that's what this guy's doing, heading straight over. Now, he's not concerned for his own safety, either from Jimmy or from these guys, because, look, he's probably a cop or he's working with them, and he knows he's perfectly safe in just going over there and taking on these two hoods with a baseball bat, as well as not worry about Blondie's done in trying to shout out to those guys to stop it. She's taken up his position to ensure do the job that he was doing at that post, which frees him up then to go over and challenge those guys. And we'll see in a second that the guy on the right-hand side, he goes over to her and relieves her of that position so she can then go and berate the guy in red. You can see the guys throw the baseball bat at the guy in a hoodie who's now left his post to Blondie for Blondie to look after. The guy in red, he's just all over the shop. He's just a total doofus. That's why they throw the baseball bat at him. But I'm just going to stop it here and have a look at how Blondie interacts with Jimmy G. The Blondie, I'll just go back to the person in blue. Now, they're already in action. See, those guys from the baseball bat have just caused all manner of problems for them. They're mobilising everyone. And the guy in blue, he does some really strange antics, starting off with this one. Now, earlier on, I'm not going to go back and show it, but he actually seems to communicate with someone in one of those cars, and then he comes up and starts to do this. So, look, at this stage, it was full panic mode, trying to adjust to the situation. So here he is. I mean, what a strange pose for him to be in. There's no way he would ever this would ever be in the script for him to act like that. So he's adjusting to those guys and adapting to those baseball bat guys while he's in this position, in this karate stance or whatever he's doing. God knows. So he's gone from the crouched position into this stance here, and he's just giving instructions all over the place, trying to salvage this situation. So the guy in a hoodie, he's gone over to take care of the guys with a baseball bat. He actually gets the baseball bat, as we'll see, and they're now working out how to wrap this up, because if they hang around, the obvious question would be, well, where were the police once the baseball bat guys got involved? So that was the trigger for ending this early. You can see Blonde Hottie, she's waving to Jimmy there. That's her third interaction in this. And the guy with the shorts also looks like he says something to Jimmy. Here's the guy in blue gesticulating madly again. Now, if If it was all going according to script, Jimmy should already know what to do. They shouldn't need to communicate anything to him. He should just, they rehearsed it well enough. There's no need to make any communication with him, but they do, obviously. Now that Jimmy's facing this way, well, they've got that covered as well, because it's about to see this guy do the exact same gesture as Blondie. Sometimes he's walk across the street at the exact same time as Jimmy's facing him, because he knows he's not going to hit him. Then he waves to Jimmy, and then he looks away. Just on the round before that, this interaction happened between Blondie and the guy in the blue shorts. Just seen, he wanders over, he's looking over at the action with the guys with the baseball bats, pretends to bend down. Now, he's obviously says something to her right there, and then conveniently, just as he takes up that position, because they needed to station somebody there, she was then free to go over, and here she goes, wandering off to go and talk to the guy in red. While they were doing that, the guy in blue was making his way up to do his final scene at the intersection, so you could see him just about to run up to the right-hand side there. Just shortly after the big sprint. Didn't look like that person was in too good a shape, but anyway, they got into position and just about to start giving Jimmy his final instructions. There he is. I don't know what that means, but obviously Jimmy must have known. Oh, I showed that bit earlier on. There's the guy in a white jacket giving Jimmy a signal. There's a lot going on. So while he's doing that, Blondie's looking across at somebody, gesturing again, and there's the muscle-bound guy. He's just made an appearance. So I covered a bit of stuff in my prior video, and look, I've just added a few bit more detail to this one. Now, I just want to, before I finish off with the guy with the black shirt on that directs traffic, he's just one additional person to be involved, and you really get an idea of how big an operation this was when you look at all the bit players that come out of the woodwork once those baseball bat guys got involved. But this was my favourite scene. Look at her. She's just given it to him. He's not taking a backward step, though. I think they're the same rank. I think the guy with the blue shorts, he was the boss. He sent her over there to say something to him. He's still pointing back at her. He's not taking a backward step. That was one of the funniest parts of this whole, the most enjoyable part of this hoax. Argument, totally oblivious to Jimmy, anyone watching. That's how heated it was. You're a dickhead. No, I'm not. It's funny. But anyway, she then had to get back to her post because she finally turned around and looked at Jimmy and thought, oh, he's driving off. There's the head of the guy in the blue shorts. He's now racing back. I mean, you know he's involved because why would he go to one side and then race back to the other? So he's obviously keeping an eye on things, and he's got quite a senior role, including giving her directions. So he did a good job on the day. He would have earned some of that couple $100 million that they dished out from the public purse. I'm just going to finish with this shot here. You got two characters here. You got the guy in the white jacket. He's now standing there watching Jimmy from this side of the road, and look at the big fat guy over there with the black shirt on. What's the interaction he has with him? Another character that was involved, and when you just look at how many people were a part of this hoax, some of them would have not entirely known the whole story. Obviously, a lot of them would be all compartmentalized, but when the amount of people and that resources they put into staging this thing, just even at this scene here, with all that backup team and all of the cops that were around, the cars, the trams, this was huge. Now, we haven't even got to the part up at Bourke Street with all the actors and Lou the cabbie. This cost a fortune. That's why, like I said before, the government opened up the checkbook of that, because it was such a traumatizing event that emotionally we're just going to pour money everywhere. Well, that all went to the organisers and all the people involved because there was just so many. But, look, hats off to them. They've got a compliant media, so no one's actually and the cops are in on it. So there's going to be no legal investigation into whether or not it was staged, and of course the media aren't going to. But all in all, they've managed to shut down the truth community quite successfully, and pretty much they've gotten away with it. Look, my videos here are just a bit nostalgic. It's not going to change anything, but I'm just going to put them up. Now, my next video is going to be whether or not Jimmy went down Bourke Street, because there's a lot of people who say it didn't happen, meaning that, or it never happened, meaning that I presume that they mean that he didn't go down Bourke Street. But what we do know is the car ended up on Bourke Street at one point in time. So I'm just going to have a bit more of a look at that. The fact that the timing of this was put out, if they were going to go down Bourke Street, they would need the timing to be perfect. So they may not have gone down Bourke Street. Like I said, I don't know. I've got to really investigate that. I've got a few thoughts on it, but I'm not going to say them right now. But you would think that the timing would need to be perfect to use Bourke Street. So those doofuses with the baseball bat getting involved, they may have been the reason why it didn't actually go down Bourke Street as part of this hoax. But anyway, like I said, I'll get into that in my next video.